live button. So we're preparing to stream to YouTube, I believe. So part of what we've got going on here is welcome to Exceptional TV. Now this week, I'm beyond live button. Oh, so that affirms that we are live on YouTube. That was the sound coming back to you. So normally what we do here is what we do is look beneath the surface in the lives of those who are making a change in other people's lives. So it's an endeavor to hear about what you're doing, but also to delve a little bit into your story. And today, the your story belongs to Denise Thomas, who is one of these people who have, well, you'll hear from her, but she's ended up with something that is very potentially extremely useful and even life-changing for families. So first of all, welcome Denise to Exceptional TV.
Thank you, Karen. I'm so excited to be able to be here with you today.
Yeah, well, we are excited because we know that I'm a parent. I've had a few kids, and they've been lucky to go to university. Found a way. The reality was each one of them ended up leaving school with a mortgage and no house. So when I heard about what you're doing, a little bit about what you're doing, I wanted to have you on because I wanted your voice to be heard by many, because it's such a challenge. And we can hear in the news what's going on with the student debt in this country. And it's no small thing to put around the necks of either the kids or the families. It's just incredible. I came originally from Australia, so it's a little bit of a different situation there. So I just wanted to set that scene. Well, it was a little bit of a simple scene, but set that scene because you are somebody who has navigated a way to where children can go to university without that, you called it, I think, a debt sentence. But before we get into some of the nuts and bolts of all of that, tell us a little bit about you and your journey to where we are today.
Sure, Karen, thank you for that. I think we're the typical American family. We didn't save money for our kids to go to college. Thought about it once every, 3 to 5 years, maybe. Crossed my mind. Didn't even come out of my lips to discuss with my husband. I mean, we just didn't do it. And years later, I found out that my husband thought in his mind, well, we'll just use the 401k. We have plenty in there. And, by the time they're going to college, 16, 17, 18 years later, we'll be fine. It's well funded.
Yep.
Of course, now, having done the math, which by the way, I love math.
Oh,
I now understand how really bad of an idea that would have been, because today to attend a state flagship university, room, board, and books included, everything, cost a little bit over $100,000 for the 4 years. Okay, if you've got $1 million in your 401k, that may not sound like a whole lot of money. You're okay, it's 10%. We can do that. But a couple things. You're about age 40-ish when your kids are going to college. You've still got 27 years to go. You start taking 100 grand out at age 40. By the way, there are penalties for that. We're not even talking about the penalties, okay? We're just talking about taking the money out. You have lost more than $800,000 of value at retirement because you took that 100 grand out.
And it didn't have the time to accumulate over those years.
Right. So what if you have more than one kid? Or what if your kid goes to college more than 4 years?
Oops.
Trust me, your children are not planning to finance your grandparent years while they're building their own life with their own families.
We'd like that, but
that ain't happening. Trust me. It is not in their budget. They're not planning for that.
Oh.
So even though that was something my husband thought was a good idea and that we would do, we didn't even get a chance to get to that point. Just before my daughter began high school, my husband was laid off. Now, we had never been in our industry in the running for layoffs. We were just never in that pile of employment. So that kind of took us, it was a shock. And we had literally just built our dream home, the house you think you're going to retire in. So I'm thinking, well, we're going to have to put the house on the market. I'm not taking that chance. Now, he was able to get a job right away. That was great. But then within 3 months was laid off again.
Wow.
What we were not realizing is that we weren't really paying attention to world events and our own industry and things like that. We were living our nice, cushy little life in our nice, cushy little house.
Yeah, we often we do.
We have blinders on.
The meta reality of the world is often it's another world.
It is. So he gets laid off a second time within 3 months.
Wow.
Now we're freaking out because when we had put the other house on the market, we made another mistake and immediately bought another smaller house in another town about 45 minutes away. So now we have 2 mortgages, no income, and then the stock market crashed.
One of those little perfect storms, and when you think it can't get worse, it often
it was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
So we're thinking, okay, well, obviously we have this money, and we thought we had money in the stock market. Now we don't. We had to use what was left in the stock market and what was left in savings to pay the bills, to try to keep up with these mortgages.
Right.
And again, I'm the math person, so I'm looking at and I'm seeing the money run out in a freaking hurry.
Mm-hmm.
It got to a point where this is it. This is all we got left. And we had no choice but to hire a bankruptcy attorney and buy a lawnmower and trailer and start mowing lawns to put food on the table. But that was okay. We can do this, right? We were not on the street. And that was something that we fully believe, because we have family. And I've always wondered when I see people on the street, it's like, where is your family? Don't you have family? Yeah. I knew that no matter what happened, somebody's getting a job at McDonald's, right? And move in with family and sleep on the couch if we have to. So I never had that terrible feeling of dread, except 2 or 3 times I was literally on the floor, prostrate before the Lord, crying my eyes out in prayer, because it was bad. We were about to lose everything we had worked 15, 16, 17 years for. The bankruptcy was liquidation. Right. Everything had to be sold. If you could touch it, it was gone. Yeah. Even the kids' toys, the books, the pots and pans, the Christmas decorations, the furniture, everything had to go. Even our 2 dogs, not as part of the bankruptcy, but because we had to move into a smaller home. Right. So our dogs had to be given away. That was pretty devastating, because to me, I'm a dog person. I do furry animals, and this was my furry child. Yeah. There were people coming into my home making an offer on the pot I was cooking my dinner in. I had to pour my dinner into a container, clean $200 and something Magnolite pot for $5. It was not something I would wish on my worst enemy. This type of bankruptcy is not on paper. This is you lose it all. But okay, so we're starting over. We started over. We're in an apartment now, and my husband's mowing lawns. Okay. But he was really good at what he does. And by the way, YouTube is your friend. Just saying, you can learn a lot on YouTube. So we were able to build that lawn mowing company up. And within a couple of years, we were doing quite well. But it wasn't long after moving into the apartment that I realized, oh my gosh, my kids are about to start high school. College is literally around the corner.
Yeah.
How are we going to pay for this? We have no savings. We have no 401k to borrow against. We have no house to borrow the equity from. Oh, yeah. And a bankruptcy means we have no credit.
Mm-hmm.
We can't co-sign for student loans. You see, they don't tell you this. All this talk about the high cost of college and student loan debt crisis, your kids can only get this much.
Yeah.
The rest is on you. You're co-signing for that puppy.
Yep. Yep.
Parents or grandparents usually. So that severely, for the parent, really affects your buying power in your midlife years, when you might want to buy that boat, that new car, add on to your house or whatever, take that great vacation. Suddenly you don't have the money you thought you did. So I'm dealing with this thought about how am I getting my kids to pay for college? And also I was homeschooling my kids. So I had the additional hoop to jump through, knowing are colleges even going to accept my Excel sheet type of, drawing up, right? So in trying to figure out how I was going to do this, I started doing the research. And that's when I realized some things that we're just not being told for some reason. Things such as, so a lot of people have college debt, but 30% of college students graduate debt-free every single year. And it doesn't matter what the economy is doing. Doesn't matter about anything. Doesn't matter personal economics is. It doesn't matter. These kids are not, they're not necessarily brilliant. They're not getting all straight A's and perfect SAT scores. They're not student athletes. They're not super wealthy. And they're not super poor. This is what we call, I'm in the middle, I don't get anything. That's a lie.
Right.
You know, we've been fed a lot of myths or lies, like I call it. So in starting to do this research, one of the myths that came up, all my good friends, Denise, you're starting too early for this. Wait till junior year. We hear that all the time. High school counselors tell us that.
Well, even when you said before that you started, when your eldest was beginning to, was just getting into high school, I'm thinking, what was I thinking about my kids and college at that stage? And I was going, I wasn't even thinking. So
probably not. That's exactly right. We're not told that it's important to think about that, but it really is. And it's important in several different aspects. So I was fighting this uphill battle where both my friends are telling me I'm starting too early. And sure, I'm looking at, all girls colleges for my daughter, and my daughter's going, I don't think so, Mom. Nice try. But there were things that I found in my research, in addition to the fact that, wait a minute, there are people out there graduating debt-free. How are they doing it? Because there's got to be a trick to this. There's got to be something we're missing.
Somebody's doing something that you just don't know about.
Exactly. Yep. And the truth is, there's a lot we're missing. These kids that are graduating debt-free have some commonalities, like I lost grades or anything like that. I'm sorry.
Yep.
They're not all wealthy. They're not all having perfect grades and things. So what are they doing right that the rest of us don't know? And one of those things is that they are having these conversations early with their parents. Their parents are talking about the cost of college. And hey, Jack and Jane, this is really awesome. I know you want to go to college. We're not paying. Start saving your money now. When I was high school, I assumed my parents were paying for college. And I think a lot of kids do.
Mm.
The comment was always when you go to college. It was never if you go to college. So that was my assumption.
Right, right.
What I didn't realize is that, oh, my parents couldn't afford to pay for college. But the truth is, and here's another little statistic for you, parents that are paying even as little as, say, $16,000 over the course of 4 years, their kids have lower GPAs. That GPA drops below a 3.0 when the parents are contributing financially.
So you're saying that this whole process, when the son, daughter, Jack or Jane, were actually the ones that the economy was resting on for their time in college, then they were more invested. They understood what they were getting. They had skin in the game.
Bingo. They had to work for it in some way, whether
Right.
they worked in a job or for themselves as an entrepreneur, because kids
Right.
do that these days.
Yes, they do.
Or maybe they worked for their good grades and their high test scores, or they worked to get scholarships, private scholarships, or they worked doing the research for what college should I attend.
Mm.
Karen, there are 4,000 four-year colleges and universities in the US.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm willing to bet 99% of your listeners cannot name every college in their own state.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and again, my world was very simple because I went to school, university in Australia, and you could just about put the number of universities on one hand, just about, not quite. I mean, then there were technical schools and all kinds of other things, but universities, there weren't so many. So I pretty much knew them all back then, but America's a whole different ballgame.
There's so many opportunities for kids these days. And, back in the day when I was going to college, my parents didn't talk about that. They didn't talk about the money. And it wasn't until the summer between my junior and senior year that I realized my parents were not paying. Suddenly
it kind of dawned on you.
Seriously, it was like a very brief conversation. I said something that assumed they were paying.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom said, "Oh no, we're not paying for you to go to college. That's all on you." And she wasn't.
By the way,
it was like you missed the boat, babe, on that one. But suddenly the numbers are flashing before my eyes because I had a job. I had been working in some way, shape, or form since I was 14. And here I am at 16 and a half years old, suddenly realizing, oh, all those Taco Bell and Burger King dinners that I had been doing literally every day that I was working, that added up to a semester of college.
Yeah.
So yeah, the next day I started bringing a sack lunch. Yeah, so mom could pay for the lunch, right?
And there you go. Mom was paying for college.
There are so many things that we don't know. It's not just that there's a ton of colleges out there, but there are colleges that want your child and will pay to have your child there. It doesn't have to be necessarily high GPA and test scores. That does help if you have that. But I know colleges and universities that have scholarships for a 2.6 GPA and a rather average SAT score.
So what are they looking for?
Colleges are looking for three things in general. Are you going to pass and graduate? Because that affects their stats.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So from that perspective, your grades and your test scores tells them that. Gives them an idea if you're going to be able to handle college level work. Mm-hmm. Did you take any AP classes? If you're homeschooled, well, did you go to a local community college if AP was not an option?
So
you can handle that college level work.
So they're looking for, the kind of commitment to completion and not just, do you come in with a shiny score of some kind?
That's right. Because you have to remember the reason colleges still like those big test scores, ACT and SAT, is not that those scores can tell them that you're going to do well in college.
Because that's a whole nother ball of wax. Yeah.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
What those test scores do for them, it validates your high school education. For example, if a student gets say they have a C average in high school, but they have a really high SAT or ACT score, that tells the college that the quality of education at that school was pretty darn rigorous. Unless you just happen to have a fluke day on the testing day. Which
Right.
They're looking at that saying that must be a really heavy duty school. You're probably going to do well. On the opposite end, if the student has a 4.0 GPA and a really average ACT or SAT score, now you've just told the college that your school is giving out A's and B's like it was, water coming out of a faucet. And they're really not that great of an education coming out.
I see. So they're really looking at
right there.
Yeah, they're triangulating the different data that they're getting from the courses. So in and of itself, any one of those particular scores is not necessarily the be all and end all.
Exactly. And although right now, a lot of colleges, almost 50% are, quote, test optional, that does not mean test blind.
Right.
They are still accepting those college entrance exams, and they're still using them for academic scholarships. So if you're in it for the money, which for me, that's what it's all about. It's about, let's get the money. Yeah. You want to do your best to get those scores high, and waiting until late junior year to take those exams for the first time is a recipe for disaster, because now you don't have the time to study for, revamp, figure out what you got wrong, and then take the test again multiple times before college applications are due.
Yeah. So you're underscoring the importance of doing well at those tests as well as you can, and not just your grades in school per se. And that takes, and to recognize that we do learn how to take tests, and that we can do better as we practice those tests. And so therefore, start sooner.
Exactly. Because one of the things that many high school counselors get incorrect, this is not an IQ test. I've heard plenty of people say, oh, don't take it more than 2 times, 3 at the most, because you're not going to do any better anyway. That is so not true. Yeah.
And that's a really important distinction, because I mean, there's all different kinds of tests that you can take that you can't study for. But I think your point there, and that's good to know, is that these tests can be studied for.
Yes, there are strategies for these exams. And it's so sure, there's definitely a component of knowledge. You have to know your material. But the strategies are equally as important. So that's just one aspect of what colleges are looking for. They're looking for grades and test scores to show them that you're going to graduate, because that's important for the college or university.
Sure. They don't want to bring somebody on who's going to bum out after the first year, and then they look bad, and of course the student doesn't feel great and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
And of course,
so even getting into the shoes of the universities, in a sense, to understand what they're thinking about is really important for the end user, us, the kids and the parents, to understand as they're preparing.
Well, there's, for example, another aspect that colleges are looking for in that college application. How does your teen fit into the campus community? What kind of contribution will they make to the school? Now, colleges are not looking for all valedictorians or leaders in their council, their student council. They can only have one president of the student council. Right. But they need people to fill all of the clubs and organizations that the campus has. They might have 300 or more different clubs and organizations. They've got to fill those organizations. So they're looking for your activities. What is it that you like to do? What floats your boat, right?
Yep.
So that's something that's important. But a third thing that I think many people do not pay attention to, because it's not overtly written in the application, is what kind of an alumni are you going to be? How will your adult life, how will your adult life reflect back on to your alma mater? Because that's important to them.
Because it's one of the ongoing things after school is what kind of alumni, who are you engaged with, who are you working with, how do you show up in the rest of the world, and how do you give back?
Exactly, 100%. And all of that is really important. So when I was doing this research, I came upon some of these aspects that colleges are looking for. And, when I think about back on when I was in school, college applications were not submitted until probably January of your high school senior year. That was almost everyone. Literally, there were only a few colleges that had some type of an early application thing going on, and that was very few. Today, the Common App opens on August 1st of the high school senior year. Not that you have to get it in on August 1st, but a lot of kids.
No, but the fact that it's,
yeah. And they're turning in those applications early. In addition, even applications that have regular decision deadlines in January, February, or March, usually those colleges still have scholarship deadlines in October or November.
See, I'm sorry to jump in here, but part of what you're laying out here is how much I don't know about the college process. And just to have that laid out, if I had had that laid out to me, I don't know whether I would have been a better or a worse mom, but I would have definitely been a far more informed mother at that time, and that would have been seeped down to my kids, because we didn't go in and pay for the kids' schooling. We helped support them in the background, but so just the fact that you've laid out all of this area and just in a few minutes you've given me I didn't list them all, but the testing, what the universities are actually looking for, even understanding about the testing. I mean, in my mind, one of the things that I see is, that I took away from my kids was the importance of the essay, but that was about all. I mean, you brought up so many other things already. Of course, I guess I sort of knew that the tests were important, the SATs and that sort of stuff. But to create that breadth of a comprehensive understanding is something new to me, even though my kids have all graduated.
Well, and one of the things that is, I believe that the idea of, quote, waiting until junior year for pretty much everything related to college, it helps the high school counselor to not be overloaded, because let's face it, they do more than just help your kids get to college and whatever they're going to do after high school. They are inundated with all kinds of issues they're dealing with, family issues and things.
Yeah.
That's just the college thing. That is a small aspect of their job. So if waiting until junior year to hand the child a packet for taking the ACT and SAT exam, if that's the first thing they have, first contact they have with regard to college, they have cut their workload in half when it comes to college, right? But if you think about it, remember I said that college applications are now going in early.
Right.
Okay? Well, back in the day, when they were going in late in senior year, you had all of those senior year activities and leadership roles that took place on the application. But if you're turning in your app prior to even stepping foot on your high school campus for senior year, you need to still have leadership roles. So now we've got to back up into middle school, that
Mm.
exploration phase of what do you enjoy? What kind
Right.
of activities would you want to do? What type of community service and things like that? So it's really important to start early, because the earlier you start, the more opportunities your child will have for not only college admissions, but for a debt-free education as well, because scholarships also begin way earlier than parents believe.
Yeah, we barely even touched. I mean, you've been going into your story, which was mind-blowing. And, you know, we still haven't heard the end of your story yet. And I'd love to hear the end part as well before we finish up today. But it seems that there are a number of kind of core stages and timing. You've mentioned timing a number of times. And so you really stress the timing
Absolutely.
component and having almost a stepwise process that helps people really more clearly get from not knowing anything to having their kids paid for. Now, one of the things that you said, I'm maybe jumping forward a little bit, and I know we can't cover everything that you go over and everything that you know about this, so forgive me for jumping you forward a little bit, but you know, where does all of this go in terms of what are you pointing to scholarships? So what are the solutions that you don't leave with a debt sentence, as you said, that the parents, the children do not have a debt sentence by the time they get to college? What's a little bit of the end story to all of this preparation? Well, and I know you can't go into all the details of the how-tos or whatever, but that takes at least another session. But, you know, we'd like to see where the hope is in all of this.
Well, remember that I was homeschooling my kids. So I also had that hoop to jump through. Are they even going to accept my kids?
Right.
So what I sought to do was, as far as college admissions were concerned, to showcase my kids as more than a GPA and a test score.
Yeah.
Although we know that's important, it always will be. But how do we show who the person is? How do we showcase that your child is awesome?
Right.
And that you need to have this kid on your campus, right? That was my goal when I figured out what I was going to do for my child's college application. And I believe that, of course, a lot of people, oh, wait, it's your kid. Yes, I understand. My child has to do X.
Right. Yeah.
But here's the deal. I firmly believe that the kids who are successful in not only gaining college admissions, but also scholarships, they have an adult supporting them in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's not.
So that's that was one of the common points that you dug into and uncovered, that was a key piece. So tell us about, you were probably just about to do that. I just want to, but tell us about what that means to have that a high school student, a college applicant, does have a parent supporting them.
Well, I've seen parents where they said, oh, well, Johnny's taking care of everything for his college applications. Okay, that's really cute, but Johnny needs mom to remind him
about deadlines.
When's that deadline? Because it'd be really awesome if they gave you a scholarship, but last minuting anything, and it's kind of iffy when you last minute stuff. Reminders are good. Encouragement is good.
Right, encouragement.
It's good to have the parent read the essay, or actually read the entire application, because there are some things that you don't want to leave blank. I had one client whose daughter, sweet thing, brilliant, great grades, etc., and terrific activities and things. And this child was freaking out over like taking the ACT or SAT exams. Now, I've seen a lot of that this year. And I think it's COVID-related anxiety, not being in school, going back to school, etc. Kids who have really great GPAs are saying things like, I don't test well.
Right.
BS.
Yeah.
You got A's. How can you say you don't? The ACT and SAT is multiple choice, for crying out loud.
Right.
It's the easiest type of an exam you'll ever take, right?
Right. And as you were saying before, thinking about it, well, okay, maybe you won't do as well as you would like on the first time, but if you use that concept of starting early and practicing, then you've got time to learn.
Yes. And a lot of parents and students don't realize both ACT and SAT exams, they offer for an extra $20 or so to actually get in the mail the exam your child took, the exam booklet, the key, and your kids' answers.
Wow.
Now you've got something to study from. You know again, what they got wrong.
Yeah. And that's good, because one of the things that would always annoy me over the many, many years of being tested and examined is that what's the point of doing a test if you can't learn from it?
Exactly.
I mean, yes, it's important to get an assessment of where you're at, but if that's the end purpose of a test, that's so limiting. But if it can help you learn. And so that's that little piece there. Spend the extra $20 to get the test back so you can review and learn, so that you're not just winging it again the second time.
Exactly. You know, you can figure out by certain strategies to know whether or not you guessed on a question, or if you legitimately thought you got the answer correct. Ooh, now we need to go over those concepts for right. You know, so there's a lot of things like that. But when I was helping my daughter figure out this application thing, as I mentioned, one of the things they're looking for is campus community. How are you going to contribute? Where do you fit into the campus community? So when my daughter was filling out her application, the college application looks a little bit like an employment resume. It has sections. It's got different sections. Employment is one, community service is another, your extracurricular activities, your honors and awards, and of course, the essay. Now, some colleges have more than one essay. It may be marked optional. Nothing is optional ever. Okay, so know that going in. It's never optional. You have to still do all of the essays that are included.
Good point. And essays are always the easiest.
So when my daughter sent in
not to do.
I know. So my daughter sends in her first application. Now, she was still a high school junior. It was probably about March of her junior year. But this was one of those colleges that has more open application, where you check a box at the top saying which year or semester you plan to begin. He had what I would consider minimum qualifications. Again, no perfect GPA, no perfect test, but decent. 3 days later, we got a phone call from the college. And this man introduced himself, told me what university he was calling from. And then he said, "We received your daughter's application, but we did not receive the application fee." Now, Karen, I'm going to time out for a second. An application without the fee is going to end up in a pile that will never be seen again.
This was an unusual one that they actually called.
Your kid didn't send in the fee. It just, you just don't hear from them. But they called to say they did not receive the application fee, and they'd like to offer her tuition, fees, room, board, and books. But
kind of worth the fee
to process the scholarship. Exactly. Now, keep in mind, though, I'm a skeptic. So I said,
yes.
You do know she's a junior? And he said, "Yes, ma'am. We'll wait for her." We got those types of comments from almost every school she applied to, both public and private, across 3 states. Even after she had finally chosen the one college that she was going to attend, she sent a withdrawal letter to the other 7 schools. One of the schools that she withdrew the application from called to ask, "What can we do to get you to come here?" what this application does is it shows the college who your child is, not only what they can contribute to the campus, but their character. Who are they?
So
I want that.
So what were you working with your daughter on to put into that application that got them to respond in that way?
I think a large part of it is that the application is cohesive. And here's what I mean by that. I know that there are a lot of people, a lot of consultants, professionals in my space, in the college consulting space. There are people who help you with the essays. There are people that will help you with getting those good people that will help you choose a college, and so on and so on.
Right.
But all of that is piecemealing it together.
Mm.
The application needs to be cohesive. It has to feel like it's all one person.
So not a Picasso, huh?
Picasso was good, but I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm not saying he's not. It's just that that was had a different effect,
right? All that discombobulated stuff. So, for example, and this is one of the key points that I cover. If your child has an activity that they love, they've been doing it for years, maybe, but they love it. Not just that mom's been dropping them off at the ballpark, but they really love it. Okay.
Right.
Well, where else can we put this and do something to put this on other areas of the college application? Are there competitions for this thing and it can be under honors and awards?
Mm.
Is there some type of a entrepreneurship or job related thing where you can get paid for something that's related to that activity? And what about community service? Is there a way for you to do something related to that activity that's community service?
So you're looking at, with this, as you mentioned before, kind of either the parental role or someone to sit back and say, join the dots for the whole thing, so that when you joined all of those dots, you end up with a real picture of the person, of the child.
And it's not that your child is only doing that one thing, because they probably are in some type of a church youth group or something, or maybe they do music in some way, shape, or form as well, or just whatever.
Right.
You're not holding them back from doing other things. They should have other interests more than just the one thing.
Right.
But you need to show the college what is that one thing. It could be two, but usually it's one thing that really floats your boat. What puts that spark in your eye? It doesn't have to have anything to do with your college major. It might, but doesn't have to.
Right.
So bringing that together really makes a difference, because now the college knows where your child fits into this campus community.
Because otherwise, each child almost gets reduced to a number and a set of data points, instead of having the character and the face and the voice.
That's right. And Karen, think about it too. If you wait until senior year to think about these things, which is what we're told to do, wait.
Right.
You can't backtrack filling in those gaps.
Right.
You've got to start early.
Or you're in a scramble and then it ends up, it doesn't end up the work of art that it could be.
Exactly. And in the end, not only was my daughter given all these opportunities, and by the way, she turned down that full ride scholarship that she was offered. That was not the school that she ended up choosing in the end, because in the end, between my daughter and my son, both homeschooled, they won 17 scholarships, totaling $199,000. They could attend college wherever they wanted to, for the most part. So when you've got the bottom line, because to me, it's all about the bottom line. I want to know, how much money do I have to come up with? That's all I want to know about. I could care less about anything else.
Right.
And because the truth is employers really don't care. We've got to get that message across. Employers don't care. There are 4,000 colleges and universities in the US. Every one of them, those kids come out, they get a job.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't think that you've got to pay $200,000, $300,000 for a 4-year education to, quote, get a good job or be a success in life. That's a lie. That's a myth.
And increasingly, I think maybe that was perhaps a little bit more true years ago, but today it absolutely, everything has shifted in education and the job market and the future of work.
Well, and I ask parents, okay, because we've been sold a bill of goods, to be honest with you. There's a magazine that comes out once a year. It's the US News and World Report, college rankings.
Right.
Woohoo. Okay. So here's the deal. If you look really closely at how these rankings are created, it's nothing but a glorified popularity contest. In one of the categories, they actually rank each other. Seriously. They can manipulate some of the categories. For example, the applicant to acceptance ratio. Let's say a college gets 200,000 applications, but they only have seats for 1,500. These are colleges that are buying the list of kids who took the ACT and SAT exam, and they're sending out emails, postcards, or letters with, you did so well. Here's a coupon code. You can apply without paying the fee. It's free. Toss your name in the hat, right? That's what happens. There is, if parents would take home this one nugget, there is no outside authority ranking colleges on educational quality or student outcomes, period. If you want to know if a school that your child is considering is a decent school, look at who's recruiting there. What companies are looking for children or young adults from that school? Almost every school has some type of career day. Businesses are coming in. Who are they? What businesses? Do you recognize the names? You'd be surprised to see some really big name people, companies, recruiting from your state universities. Just as good as the Ivy League.
Yeah, I think that point right there about the US News Report, School of the Year, or the top 10 or top 50, I guess it's, or the top 100. That's an important piece of information.
Starting early is important because you don't know what you don't know, and being able to create opportunities can be important. For example, obviously my daughter was the oldest, so she was my guinea pig in figuring this out. When she was in her senior year applying for one of the largest scholarships in the country, this application begins with 9 pages of checkboxes. Checkboxes of typical high school activities and leadership roles. They had things like band, 4-H, junior, whatever, just typical activities that would be on most high school campuses. And of course, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, et cetera. Well, my daughter was homeschooled, but even though she had a very impressive resume, and I can explain some of that in a moment, she couldn't check enough boxes. So she didn't get to the real application that came next. So what we ended up doing, obviously for her, it was too late, but my son is 5.5 years younger. I've got the application. So I partnered with another family, and we created opportunities for our homeschooled kids to be able to check these boxes.
Some of those boxes. Yeah.
When my son got around to his senior year applying for that scholarship, he was able to check enough boxes to get to the next level where they send you the real application that you can fill out. So then he became a Coca-Cola semifinalist. But you don't know what you don't know. And when you wait until junior, senior year, it's too late,
right,
to make those things happen for your kids.
And that's probably one of the biggest things about this. These are one-time events in life, essentially. I mean, and so you don't know going in, and even though you know everything by the time you come out, even if it's not everything, you're never going to use it again. So how many? Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's just one of those frustrating things that. Yeah, probably more people were like me and didn't know what I didn't know. And I still don't know what I didn't know. So thank you for informing me, but I'm hoping that people, well, grandkids maybe, but yeah, even these little tidbits.
It is true, and I do have grandparents that hire me for their grandkids. So
yeah,
because they understand that coming out of college with $100,000 in debt is a bad idea.
Yeah.
The average that people come out with every year,
right,
really close to $30,000. It waxes and wanes between 29 one year, 31 the next, but it's about 30 grand. And that's not per year. That's for the full, when you graduate, that's the average debt is about $30,000. And that is about a $400 note for 10 years. Now, for somebody my age, that's not a big deal. Seriously.
right.
I mean, that's not even a car note. But if your child is coming out of school with a $35,000 job, which, by the way, they think they're rich, just giving you that little caveat.
Right.
They don't realize that this is going to have a huge impact. But what's worse is the kids whose parents did not rein them in and allowed them to attend a college that costs $70,000 per year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're taking on $260,000 in debt on a $35,000 a year.
Yeah, the numbers don't work very well.
The numbers do not work. And in some cases, depending on what your child's ambitions are for their career, in some cases, they can do everything right for their undergrad. But maybe their grad school is going to cost them $200,000 or $300,000. Well, at least get the undergrad for free. Start there.
Right.
But there are
because people don't know what, I mean.
Potentially there are grad schools that will give you money because scholarships go all the way through professional school. But you have to know about it. You have to know what they're looking for and look for it. Yeah,
and I was just going to say, and look for it. And the looking for it is part of the work that needs to be done. But if you don't know to look for it, then you don't, and then you think you've just got to fork out the dough. Yeah. Look, we don't have that much time left. This has been wonderful to hear your story, to hear how your kids learned, your youngest son learned on your eldest, which is, that's part of the challenge for the eldest, right? I still remember making the deal with my eldest when he was about this big. I said, look, you've never done this before, and neither have I. Let's figure this out together. But you have something for people. I know that I do like to ask all of my guests to provide something for the listener, for those today, for those tomorrow, who may be listening today, for those who may not get around to it tomorrow or next week. You have something. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
Yes, thank you so much, Karen. I have an ebook series called Knowledge is Power. And depending on where you are in this high school to college process, you might even have children or grandchildren in middle school years. There is something for you. If you own a business and you have kids that might be going off to college, there's something there for you as well. So go and get it. It's you have the option to choose which of the ebooks you want or all of them. There's plenty to choose from. So that is my gift to you today.
I just put that URL to the gift in the chat box for those who are here. And also that link is right at the page on Denise's page on Exceptional TV, and that'll be there from here on in. So just click on that link and get access to that. And if somebody wants to get hold of you, I mean, they come out, you have questions, or they want to hear more of your story, or, more than what we could cover today, what should they do?
Well, once they download something from that list, from that ebook series, they will be on my email list. So their booklet will come to their email, and they can just reply to that email to get in touch.
Okay, well, that makes it nice and easy. And I know that before we finish up, I've got a couple of questions that were sent in advance. And I think we've covered one of them, which is, how can parents find out more and get in touch with you? But what is something, and one of them says, what can parents do to overcome what can they do to overcome the challenges with their children? And I think part of what I would see as part of the challenges, and I'm reading into this question a little bit, is I know that my kids were very independent about their applications. When you said it's really good to have, I know it's a good idea to have somebody read over something or basically edit or be a second pair of eyes on something. But what would you recommend for those parents whose children kind of either get embarrassed or don't want their parents to see their stuff, or any recommendations there?
Yeah, the first thing to say is this: you need to coach your children on this one topic right here. When it comes to their essay or essays, if they don't want their parents to see it, they shouldn't write about it.
That's a good point.
There are a lot of topics, but if it's something you don't want your parents to see, then you should not be writing on it, because it's probably something that other people, or maybe only your therapist, should see, right?
Right,
so
right.
Really be cautious about that. But when it comes to things like the essay, I have seen students who hit the send button on purpose without having it looked at by someone who really had a clue. And you cannot turn in an essay with grammatical errors. It's so just unacceptable. Because think about it this way: those people who are looking at your application, their job is not to say, oh, yeah, let's see if we can get this one. No, their job is to weed out. Their job is to find what doesn't fit and put it in the no pile, so they can reduce the maybe pile, and maybe you can end up in that yes pile. So having another pair of eyes to make sure that there's no typographical errors, that there's no grammatical errors, and making sure things are in the proper word count, that it fits on the line, the whole kit and caboodle, and just making sure that the student really understood the question. Because in a lot of cases,
sometimes they don't,
They don't. Sometimes, I remember one, and it might seem silly, but the question was intended for an international student. Asking about, well, the kid thought it was their credit card number, right? So you have to understand where they're coming from and help your kids along with this. This is I call it a family project. It really should be. And your kids should trust you enough to be able to say, okay, just read over it. No comments from the peanut gallery. That's cool.
Right.
Just make sure that I didn't do any of this. Look, my kids were in college. My husband will still have me read over an email if it's important, if it's going to his boss, right?
And I think that point about kind of editorial role, or even I liked the phrase to view it as a family project. And I think if it gets talked about early enough, middle school, even just to drop out there, to put the concept of it in a kid's mind early enough that, hey, we'll be working on a project together to get you off to university later on. Even just to sow those seeds in an early enough time frame, so that by the time you get there, you're not fighting. No, I don't want, I'm too embarrassed for you to look at it, because,
Well, and think about this too. I often say the earlier we start, the more opportunities that your child will have. And I told my kids, I remember this when my child was early high school. see, I always sent my kids to summer camp of some kind. Now, 9 times out of 10, it was free. If there was a free camp within driving distance, they were going. And we had a lot of vacation Bible schools, a lot of churches in our area. So they usually went to at least 2, if not 3, maybe more vacation Bible school summer camps. And once in a while, I'd throw in a paid camp of some kind. Well, this one summer, my son attended 5 summer camps.
Oh, wow. Yep.
The last one was a paid camp. It was a space camp. And before I dropped him off, as I'm dropping him off, he says, so tell me again, why am I going to this camp? And I said, because my job is to give you opportunities. Your job is to find your passion.
Yeah.
Now, today, you don't have to be out in the world finding opportunities. YouTube is your friend. There's a lot of stuff your kids can learn on YouTube. By the end of this camp, now it's 5 days, it's commuter type camp. I'm picking him up on the 5th day and I say, okay, so you haven't said a darn thing. What is it that you, my apologies, my computer says things. So I asked him, I said, what did you enjoy about this camp? You didn't say a word. Is there something you liked, didn't like, et cetera? He said, well, I liked the robots. Then he paused. He said, what I really liked was programming the robots. I said, son, we can do that.
Yeah.
So 2 years later, I purchased a homeschool computer programming course. Anybody can do this. You don't have to be homeschooled.
Yeah.
And today, there's so much online, you don't have to purchase a thing, right? It's all free. In the end, college major is mechanical engineering. His has a minor in aerospace engineering. And what he loves to do is the computer-aided design. That is his forte. It's what he lives for. And he graduated in 2020 in the COVID year. So he's a recent college grad. Again, 2 kids. All I can say is that it's great for the parents because when we dropped our kids off, the last one off for college, we bought a 42-foot motorhome and went full-time RVing. We weren't worried about paying for it.
And your husband wasn't mowing lawns?
No. That was an interesting quickie. I'll tell you this real quick before we get off. That lawn mowing company within 2 years was making 6 figures.
Wow. Yeah.
We sold it at about year 3, I think. And then we started another company, a tree removal company, and again, sold that one before we left. So yeah, pretty awesome.
So hitting rock bottom was not the end of the world. It just gave you a solid footing for bringing you back to new insights and a new life, by the sounds of it, Denise.
Well, I'll tell you, certainly when I was in the throe of that devastation, could not have possibly foreseen that I would have figured out because of that, how to put my kids through college debt free and then be able to help others do the same.
Right. So just as we close out, so I'm just curious, because I think how many years have you been helping other kids get through?
Overall, about 15 years.
Wow. Yeah. So you've helped a number of people get into college where they never could have afforded otherwise.
It's exciting. The reason I started putting this online rather than doing it one-on-one is because while I was RVing, I kept getting emails or text messages from friends or friends of friends asking, okay, so my kid is at this age and this friend said you were able to do this with your kids. How did you do it?
Yeah. How did you do it? Let me know. I need to know. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, fantastic. I would just encourage anybody who has kids coming into their college years or knows somebody, to go and snag that gift that Denise is making available to you and send that off to your friend, or to just start consuming it and to dig right in. We've really gone over time this today. I want to thank you so much for telling us your story. It was really quite a journey down that some parts of that I could resonate with you. So we've all got our little stories out there in life. But thank you so much for taking the time, and I really look forward to hearing more from you. And I know that I'll see you around here and there as we move forward in our work and life. So thanks so much, Denise. And with that, I would like to say thank you so much for everybody for joining us at Exceptional TV. Do come back next week. We're going to have somebody calling from Germany, an interview with a lady in Germany next week, and she's going to be, I haven't got the final topic from her, but she's going to be dealing with some leadership elements. So I look forward to having you back next week for Exceptional TV. And again, thank you so much, Denise. Take care, and take care of all those parents and those kids. Thank you. Bye-bye. Let me see.